Most people will never retire. They will work until their body gives out, spend their savings on medical bills, and hand whatever is left to the next generation, hoping things turn out differently for them. But every few years, someone figures out a plan. A real one. Not a get-rich-quick scheme. Not a crypto moonshot. An actual, boring, repeatable plan that works. If you start early enough and stay consistent. This is that plan. Hi, I'm Anna. Anna Hart. I focus on one thing. Understanding how money really works. Because clarity is rare. And confusion is expensive. Let me rewind. David is not one person. He is a composite. Built from dozens of real cases studied by financial researchers, early retirement communities, and independent planners over the past 2 decades. The numbers are real. The trajectory is real. The name is a placeholder for anyone who actually ran the plan. In 2005, a 28-year-old software engineer named David sat down and did the math. Not because he was special, not because he had a trust fund. He did the math because he was terrified of becoming his father, who worked 40 years, retired at 67, and died at 69. 2 years of freedom. That was the reward for a lifetime of work. David decided that was not going to be his story. He had no inheritance. He had student debt. He had a salary that felt good until he looked at the housing market. He was normal. Completely, frustratingly normal. But he had one thing that most people waste. Time. Here is what David understood that almost nobody talks about. Retirement is not about how much you earn. It is about the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And if you can invest that gap aggressively and consistently, time does something almost unfair. It multiplies everything. This is where most people's eyes glaze over. They have heard about compound interest. They know it is important. But they do not feel it. Not yet. So let me make it real. David was 28. He had $12,000 in savings and no investments. He made $58,000 a year. After taxes, rent, food, and transportation, he had roughly $1,500 left over each month. Sounds tight. It was. But David made a decision that felt almost stupid at the time. He moved into a smaller apartment. He cut $400 a month from his budget. He automated $1,900 every single month into low-cost index funds. Not individual stocks. Not day trading. Index funds. The boring kind that just track the entire market. He told his friends he was investing. They laughed. One said he should buy Bitcoin. Another said the market was about to crash. A third told him he was missing out on life. David kept investing. In the first year, nothing dramatic happened. His portfolio grew to roughly $25,000. The market dipped once. He did not sell. He bought more. Sounds smart, right? It wasn't. Not yet. At this point, David was just a guy with a spreadsheet and a slightly boring social life. But here is the part nobody tells you. By year 3, his investments were generating returns that started to feel like a second income, not because he was rich, but because compounding works silently. Every dollar invested earns returns. Those returns get reinvested. Those reinvestments earn their own returns. The machine starts feeding itself. By year 5, David had $147,000 invested. He had not gotten a massive raise. He had not won anything. He had not taken on risk that would have caused a rational person to lose sleep. He had just kept going. And this is where the first thing broke in a good way. At $147,000, David's portfolio was generating roughly $8,800 a year in average market returns. That is $730 a month. Not from working, not from selling anything, just from money that was already there doing its job. He was still contributing $1,900 a month. But now the market was adding $730 on top of that, every month, automatically. He did not change his lifestyle. He did not suddenly feel rich. He just kept going. By year 7, something shifted. David's monthly contributions and the market's monthly returns were almost equal. He was putting in $1,900. The market was giving back $1,600. The gap was closing. He ran the numbers forward. At his current trajectory, by age 38, 10 years after starting, his portfolio would cross $600,000. At a 4% safe withdrawal rate, that is $24,000 a year he could take out without ever depleting the account. Not forever money, not retire on a yacht money, but enough to cover a simple life, especially if paired with part-time work he actually chose to do. But here is where David did something most people never do. He stress-tested the plan. He did not just model the good scenario. He modeled what happens if the market returns 4% instead of 7%. He modeled a 30% crash in year 6. He modeled losing his job for 18 months. Every single time, the answer came back the same. If you do not panic and sell, if you keep contributing even in the bad years, the plan still works. It just takes a little longer. This is the second thing most people miss. The plan does not require perfection. It requires persistence. A market crash is not a catastrophe inside this plan. It is a sale. Every dollar you invest during a crash buys more shares at lower prices, which means bigger returns when the market recovers. And historically, the market has always recovered. Not because markets are magic, because the economy keeps growing, companies keep generating revenue, and inflation makes old prices look cheap from the future. David knew this. So when the market dropped 22% in year 6 of his plan, he did not panic. He increased his monthly contribution by $200. His friends thought he was insane, and this is where it gets almost unfair. By year 9, David's portfolio had crossed $480,000. The market was contributing more to his account every month than he was. The machine had taken over. He was 37 years old. He had not sacrificed everything. He had taken vacations. He had gone to concerts. He had eaten at restaurants. He had just been deliberate. He had chosen what mattered to him and cut what did not. He was 12 months away from his original goal. And nobody around him had noticed. Not really. His colleagues thought he was just cautious with money. His family assumed he was lucky. His friends stopped asking about his finances because the answers were boring. That is the second place this system broke open quietly, without fanfare. Because the whole model of retiring early gets sold as a dramatic transformation, a moment of arrival, a before and after. But that is not what David experienced. What he experienced was a slow, grinding accumulation of options. The feeling that each month, the walls of his financial life were moving back just slightly, that the cage was getting bigger. Until one day, he looked around and realized there were no walls at all. Not because he had escaped something, because he had built something. And here is the part that does not fit neatly on a motivational poster. David did not retire at 38. Not fully. He kept working, but on his own terms. He dropped to 3 days a week. He turned down projects he did not believe in. He stopped chasing promotions he did not want. Because the real retirement is not about stopping work. It is about making work optional. When money is no longer the reason you get up in the morning, everything changes. Your work gets better. Your relationships get better. Your health gets better. The quiet desperation that most people carry with them every single day starts to lift. That is what the plan actually buys. Not a beach house, not a sports car. Freedom from the feeling that you have no choice. The math is not complicated. Start as early as possible. Invest the gap between income and expenses. Do not try to beat the market, just match it. Do not sell in a crash. Keep going. 10 years. That is the window. The people who retire early are not geniuses. They are not lucky. They are just people who did the math before it was too late, who chose a smaller apartment over a bigger lifestyle, who automated their investments before they could talk themselves out of it, who sat still while everyone around them panicked and sold.